Well, good evening. Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Champaign County Keeping It Local program entitled, Is Now the Time for You to Run for Public Office? My name is Peggy Patten. I'm a member of the League's program committee and your moderator this evening. Finding citizens who are willing to run for public office is a growing concern. Ballot Ready reports that the rate of uncontested races was higher in 2024 than in previous cycles across all levels of government. This is our experience in Champaign County as well. Our three panelists this evening, Regina Crider, Vanna Pianfetti, and Diane Marlin, hold or have recently held elected positions in Champaign County. In the initial block of time this evening, each will tell us what office they hold or have recently held, when they were elected, what made them run for that position, and what has surprised them about the experience. After the panelists' introductory remarks, we will open the floor to your questions. You can add your question to the queue by typing it in the chat box on your screen at any time during the program. I have two requests to make. Please mute yourself. It helps decrease background noise. And secondly, if you're eating your evening meal or otherwise moving around, we ask that you turn off your video. Finally, this program is being recorded. The recording will be available on the League's website sometime next week. So welcome, Regina, Vanna, and Diane. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to share your experiences with us this evening. And we're grateful to former Urbana Mayor Diane Marlin, who is stepping in after a personal conflict arose for Champaign County Chair Jennifer Locke. So Regina, we'll ask you to go first and take a few minutes to introduce yourself, your elected position, why you chose to run for that position, and what has surprised you about the experience. I'll ask Vanna to go next, followed by Diane.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for the opportunity to come and share this evening. My name is Regina Crider. So to answer the first question, what office do I hold and when was I elected? I am a village trustee in the village of Rantoul for District Number 2. I was first elected in 2021. I am now serving my second term in this position. So as a trustee, I focus on helping to make decisions about village policies, budgeting, infrastructure, public safety, and economic development. And so at the core of the role that I do, it's really about making sure that our local government works well for the people who live in the village of Rantoul. And so the second question, what made me run for office, run for this position? Actually, to be honest with you, it never crossed my mind to run for public office. I was never interested in being a public official. But someone reached out to me when the village of Rantoul moved to districts, to the district system. And so that really caught my attention. It really intrigued me because I believe representation matters. I believe that people having a voice really, really matters. And so districts to me made sense, and it was a clear pathway for communities to have a direct communication and a direct voice to the local government. And so up until then, I voted, I did my civic duty, but that was pretty much the bulk of my engagement in being involved in politics, so to speak. And so I really what's really interesting is that I wasn't deeply familiar with anything that was going on in Rantoul other than that I lived here. And I hadn't really imagined myself in this role. So at that time, though, from my personal and my professional experience, I spent a lot of time advocating for families and children who are navigating complex systems. And so making sure that their voices are being heard is an integral part of what I do. And so I began to see how those two things aligned and how they came together. And so I've always lived by the notion that I can't sit on the sidelines and have an opinion about something, but never have any solutions or want to get involved. So I went and I talked to my husband, talked to my children. They thought it was a good idea. So I decided to step forward and to get involved and bring my lived experience and my professional background to serve my district well. And so then the last question is what surprised me about the experience or unexpected challenges or benefits, which is a really great question. I think the thing that has surprised me the most when I first came in is how much goes on and happens behind the scenes that residents just do not see. And whether it's budgets, legal requirements, rules, planning, long-term planning. There's just a lot that just shapes the decisions before they actually have to come before the village board for a vote. And so when people don't see that process, it's really understandable that assumptions are formed and assumptions are made. And so I've learned that part of my job, and I really feel strongly about this, is that is to kind of absorb some of the complexities about that behind the scenes. And I feel like I'm responsible for helping to explain why decisions are made, how they're made, and then also to help connect residents with how they can participate in decisions that also affect them. So I've also been really encouraged by how when a decision is made, how local government can have an impact on families or people immediately. Rather, like I said, if it's infrastructure or services, they really can make a difference. So that's been both humbling and motivating. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Regina. Appreciate that. Vanna, would you like to go next, please?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Peggy. And good evening, everybody. Thanks to the League of Women Voters of Champaign County for inviting me here this evening. And to my fellow panelists, it's so great to be here to share our stories. My name is Vanna Pianfetti, and I am the council representative for the city of Champaign for District 5. District 5 is South and Southwest Champaign. For me, I was elected in 2017, and I feel like I should say ditto to Regina's comments because I think our stories are somewhat similar. And I would guess that in many journeys into the political arena, you're either going to have one lane that is, I've never really thought about politics, and the other, which is I've always been politically minded, and I sort of fall into the category of I never really thought about sitting in a political seat, but one day somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, the seat for District 5 is opening up." It was once held by the now Senator Faraci, and he was giving it up to run for another office, and somebody said, "Might you consider it?" So for me, the city of Champaign, city council members do similar roles and responsibilities to what Regina described. And we also serve as the town board representatives. So the township representatives are the social service arm of the city. So in addition to doing the roles and responsibilities of a city council member, where we do economic development, we do the capacity building, we make the laws, and we do everything that we need to make sure our public service is safe and our community is safe. We also do the social service arm of the community through the township. But when I was elected, I was asked, similar to Regina, to consider running for the District 5 seat. And at the time, I thought, why me? And I asked a few people what they thought about that idea. And I came to the conclusion, why not me? I was a good problem solver. I was somebody that loved the community. I was somebody that thought, if I'm going to complain about something, I might as well be part of the solution instead of the complaint maker. And I also did something that was, I reached out to Mayor Deb Finan, although I didn't realize that at one point way back, we had been soccer moms. together, so I knew her very briefly. But I asked her what she was looking for in a city council representative. And I thought, well, I have some of those qualities. I think I can do this. And she was very supportive of when I said, I think I would like to run. And I reached out to other council representatives who were not up for reelection. And I asked them what their roles were. And of course, similar to Regina, I asked my family because I did have younger children at the time, and I knew this would affect them. And my husband, it would change our family dynamic. So it became a family affair, and I am now in my third term. So it was something that was a success for me. What surprised me, I think, when we are making decisions, a lot of times people think we're making decisions for today, right? And we do a lot of that, right? We do things to affect the city and to help people solve the problems for today, but really we are thinking long term. What is it going to be like when I am no longer sitting in this seat? And when you are making decisions, you need to not only think about today and the immediate future, but what's going to happen in 5 years or 10 years, or what might this city need when I am no longer here? And so what surprised me was the mindset of thinking about, okay, we have to solve today's problems, but think about tomorrow's actions. And so that was something that was surprising. And then the other thing is that this community is very passionate. And I think I knew that, but I didn't realize how much. And that sometimes is what motivates you to keep going, because you want to make this as great a, I want to make Champaign as great of a community as it can be, because people really love to live here and work here and play here and raise their families here. So that's a really motivating factor. So I think I answered all the questions and in the amount of time that you wanted. So I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to answering more questions.
Thank you, Vanna. That was wonderful. It was very helpful. And all of you will have more time to answer other questions as well. But this is a good kind of introduction to introduce you to those of us listening in. So Diane, if you'd like to go.
Sure. Thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be here, and it's good to see so many friendly faces on the screen. I am Diane Marlin. I served on the Urbana City Council for 2 terms from 2009 to 2017. And like Vanna in Urbana, the city council members are also members of the Cunningham Township Board. So we serve as board members for the township as well. And then I served as Urbana mayor for 2 terms from 2017 to 2025. I'm in the category of, I never thought I would run for elected office, and didn't see myself as being in a political office, although I was very active in the community and in many other roles. And I didn't get elected to office until I was 55 years old. So I had a whole lot of living behind me and over 40 years of life in Urbana, basically, before that. But I think, like everyone who ends up in office, everybody's story is different and unique, and you each have a different path to office. And there's no one way to go, because your life prepares you for serving in office, and you do it bringing your experience and your knowledge. And that's what makes, I think, our government so rich and useful, frankly. The key fork in my path to being in elected office was our move to South Urbana in about 2004. We originally lived in West Urbana for about 27 years. So the neighborhood down there was facing and got growing concerned about 2 issues. On the east side, we were increasingly concerned about a very sudden deterioration in the management and maintenance of apartments along the Philo Road corridor. And on the west side, the university was considering developing Orchard Downs. So there was a lot of concern in what usually was a very quiet neighborhood where nothing ever happened. In fact, the police used to say it was just a blank spot on their calls for service because they never even had to go to our part of town until about 20 years ago. But anyway, we quickly realized if we were going to have a voice in the city, we should be organized. And so Teresa Michelson and I and Helene Silverman formed the Southeast Urbana Neighborhood Association. And that became more of an organized voice where we could interact with the city council and also with our city council representative. Our SUNA boundaries coincided almost exactly with the Ward 7 boundaries, which we lived in. And so that was a very good relationship. And Lynn Barnes was our rep there. She decided not to run for office after serving one term. And she came to me and she said, I think you should run for city council. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And she was very supportive, very encouraging, as well as other friends and neighbors and family. And I was at the point in life where I was ready to try something new. And so I did. And I discovered during my time on city council that I loved it. I actually loved serving in office. I think local government is the most important form of government. One of my favorite episodes in West Wing is where Jed Bartlett is talking about school boards and city councils as being where the action is. And it's true. That's where decisions are made that impact people's lives. And that's something I always try to remember. So during the 8 years I was on city council, I tried as hard as I could to learn as much as I could. And one of the things I became increasingly concerned with was the financial situation in the city of Urbana. It seemed like every year each budget is a scramble, like robbing Peter to pay Paul and shifting money around. And there didn't seem to be a plan for addressing our $2.5 million structural budget deficit. One of the surprises I had after I was elected mayor, actually, I learned that we also didn't have any emergency reserves, which none of us council members actually were aware of. So that was one surprise. But anyway, I also was concerned about the city's relationships with our governmental nearby governments and our community partners. And we had a reputation of not being business friendly. And also the city administrator position hadn't been filled for about 10 years. And I like challenges. I make lists. I like to set goals and I like to fix things. And so this was right up my alley. And it was not an easy decision to make to run for mayor because that's a full-time job. In the city of Urbana, the mayor is like the CEO of the city and every employee ultimately reports to you. It's 24/7. Whereas, city council, has a defined set of responsibilities. It's part-time. You can spend a lot of time on it, as I know people do, and I did. But in order to run for mayor, it was a major, major career choice. And it took about a year for me to think all of this through and weigh the pros and cons and talk to people. And Mayor Finan in Champaign was incredibly helpful and supportive in just kind of sharing her experience. I also drew on the knowledge of my colleagues on the city council, especially the late Eric Jacobson. He was, his wife Naomi were terrific mentors and supporters. But anyway, I took the leap, and in running for mayor, I had to give up my opportunity to run for city council again. So that was a risk in itself. But I was happy to be elected and assembled a pretty good team. Our city staff is terrific. And that's one of the benefits of that office was the ability to work with Urbana city staff. They are really, and Champaign city staff as well, and other community. They're the unsung heroes in our communities, our village and city employees. So we were going along, and we, in 3 years, we had eliminated the deficit. We had restored our pension funding. That was the other thing that was underfunded. We rebuilt our city reserves. We are about to really break out and implement our other plans and goals. And March of 2020, everything shut down for COVID. And that was like hitting a brick wall, except you couldn't stop. And suddenly everyone had 2 jobs. We had to keep essential city services functioning. People depended on us more than ever, especially for the first responders and that sort of thing. And at the same time, everything we did with COVID was another job. It was another layer of work that everyone had to do. And that was, I would say, that was the biggest surprise of my terms was COVID-19. The wonderful part of COVID-19 was the fabulous community relationships that we built. And we as a county, with our governmental partners, with the University of Illinois, with the Public Health District, our nonprofit organizations, that's one of the things I'll be most proud of is how we navigated COVID. The other thing in 2020 was the murder of George Floyd. And that had tremendous impacts around the world and in our community. And there was so much outrage and hurt and pain and people demanding reform in our law enforcement practices. And that was piled on top of, we were in the depths of COVID, literally the beginning months of COVID. So that was an additional challenge that we had to work through and address, and made it took everything we had to address that. But again, our staff was terrific, and the challenge there was that everything was remote, and you normally you'd bring the community together and have small group gatherings and face-to-face conversations, and you'd work through things together, but you couldn't be around people and you couldn't talk to people except through a screen like this. And so much was lost in the translation there, and it made it especially hard. But 2 years of COVID, and then back to business. But the surprise, there was a surprise every day, especially if you're a mayor, but you're equipped, you've got people around you who are equipped to help you get through it. And I appreciated the comments about people don't understand what goes on behind the scenes. It's people would come up to me all the time and say, wow, I can't believe how fast that building went up, or how fast you were able to do that. And I'm like, no, we've been working on that for 6 years. We started talking about this 5 years ago, but you're just now seeing the results of those efforts. So the time frame and the length of time it takes to get things done is something that you constantly have to explain to people, what goes on behind the scenes and what goes into every decision that ultimately comes to City Council. Anything that comes to City Council is the end result of sometimes many years of work, but certainly months of work. And you always have to explain the context. And it's a wonderful opportunity to communicate and educate people about what their government does. And this is another example, this type of program here.
Thank you, Diane. Really appreciate that. All of you there were some similarities in all of your paths to political office, in that none of you planned to do it, but the opportunity arose and you gave it good thought. What advice would you give to someone who's considering running for the first time? I mean, they're really thinking about it, and maybe they didn't have someone who approached them or, to kind of plant that seed. What advice would you give to them? And, you want to, can we follow this? Well, let's start with Vanna and then Diane and Regina. What advice would you give to someone considering running for the first time, Vanna?
Sure. Well, definitely do it. I think, as we've established, I think we need good people. But I think you have to be intentional with what it is that you are hoping to get out of the purpose, right? So if you're going into it because you are wanting fame or you want something for yourself, that's not going to happen, right? This is really public service, right? And you are, no matter what role you're in, whether it's city council, whether it's a mayor, whether it's a sitting on a board or a commission, you are really working for the people of the community that you are serving for. So some of the best advice I would have would be, number one is, attend the meetings and see what it's all about, and see what type of interaction it is with the people that are serving on those, whether it's the city council, see how the meetings run, see what's involved, and then talk to the people that are serving, and see, hey, what is it like? What's your daily or your weekly or your monthly? Like, what does that all come out with? Sometimes.
Did we lose Vanna?
Just start.
Peggy, you're on mute. Oh, there we go.
Oh, you froze up.
Oh, did I freeze up or Peggy?
You
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Am I okay now?
Yes, you're good.
So,
Peggy's on mute. Peggy. Sorry, you were just talking about ask people about the time commitment. What's really involved?
Yeah, so asking about the time commitment and asking sort of what their daily or weekly or monthly activities were like, and then to see maybe what kind of project.
We lost her again. Peggy, you're on mute. Well, maybe we should go on to, there you go, Vanna. Now you're muted, dear.
I was just typing that I'll end there because I think my internet is a little bit unstable right now.
Okay. Well, you gave us a lot to think about. Thank you. So why don't we go to Diane, and then we'll finish with Regina on that one. Diane, what advice would you give to someone who's considering running for office, public office, for the first time?
I'd echo what Vanna was saying. Depending on what office you're interested in, have a conversation with the folks in the office, watch the meetings, although every meeting can be different. So there's, if you have a regular attendance at meetings, it's a good thing. And you can see everything online now, so you don't have to show up in person. In the cities, we have a number of opportunities for membership in boards and commissions. I had about 100 volunteer seats that I had to keep filled on our boards and commissions. And that's a great way to get an introduction to how government works, how city staff works. And frankly, a lot of the policies that eventually end up at city council and become codified begin with hearings or activities or ideas that come out of our boards and commissions. So that's another easier way, less intensive way to get a start to learn about how things work.
Excellent. Thank you. Regina?
So I would add to that. Well, it was really interesting that you say to, go to a meeting. I never went to my first meeting until I got elected. So yeah, there's that. Don't do what I do. I would say ask questions. I asked a lot of questions. I read up on different things that was happening in the village and trying to get an understanding of the infrastructure and that type of thing. But I think it's really just ask questions and be curious. And I would also say, similar to what the mayor said, was, if there's an opportunity for you to participate on a volunteer opportunity, a committee or something like that, that's a good way to get introduced to the different politics in your community. But I just say be curious and ask questions and talk to the people. Actually talk to people and ask them what they think. And I guess do it. Don't be scared. Just do it. Rip the Band-Aid off.
Good. I like that. Just do it. Rip the Band-Aid off. It's a good bumper sticker. Well, thank you. And do we have any, before I continue on with questions that we've formulated, are there any in the chat box that we should give attention to?
We do have a couple. So what kind of formal, informal interaction takes place within Champaign County for those in public office?
And why don't we start with, we'll just continue around. We'll start with Diane and then Regina and Vanna.
Okay.
Well, I can say there are a lot of both formal and informal opportunities. There are many events that we all find ourselves attending. There may be at the university, there are intergovernmental boards and commissions with regular meetings that councils and the mayor have representatives going to. So it could be everything from the 911 policy board to the regional planning commission board, and various other intergovernmental boards. So you run into people frequently. Actually, that's what I miss about not being in office, is I don't get to see my friends like I used to on all these boards and commissions. But it's a small community. So those of elected officials are out and about, and you're always running into folks. And as long as you don't have a majority of a quorum discussing city business outside of city council chambers, you're not going to be in violation of any Open Meetings Act. But a lot of good conversations and learning and things can take place in these informal environments. But there are also, like I said, lots of boards and commissions that we attend on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Diane. Regina?
So I would probably say that I'm a bit of a unicorn, because although I'm in a public office and I do a lot of public type activities in my professional life, I am not a social butterfly. And so I do some informal things and formal things, but probably not as frequently as I should. But I am involved in various committees, that the regional planning committee, that type of thing. Go to the IML conference. I think that's probably the largest gathering that I attend with other public officials. But I think that some people who might not be extroverted, which I am not an extrovert by no stretch of the imagination, just know that you can still do this job if you're not in that type of frame of mind. So I'm very much introverted, but there are opportunities out there.
Excellent, thank you. And Vanna, formal or informal opportunities?
So formally, the council representatives all serve on a board that the city of Champaign contributes to. So we have a seat on a board so that we financially contribute to. So for example, I serve on the Experience Champaign County board. So I am the city liaison. And so there are a number of other boards that my fellow colleagues will also serve on. So those are the similar to what Diane said, boards and commissions that we will serve on. Informally, in the city of Champaign, we attend events, some that the city puts on, like the Beats, which is our summer programming, Friday Night Live, which we put on. Things like that are things that we go out to engage with the community. But I will also add some of the things that we do that with the community coalition are events that we will attend that are bring together all different key stakeholders of the community, and those are Wednesday afternoons. If you can attend, people attend just to understand kind of the pulse of the community. We also have fun things like the parades. I will say those are things that get us out there, make awareness, get us visible to everybody. So there's a lot that we can be doing if we choose, but like Regina said, you're not forced into anything. You learn how to say no with respect, and then yes with eagerness.
No with respect. Very good. Good to remember that. No with respect and yes with eagerness. Thank you. Anne, another question from our listener?
Yes. Given that there are an increasing number of uncontested elections, I am curious about who approached you and asked you to run. Was it an individual person, a party, or an organization? Yeah.
Thank you. And we'll start with Regina and then Vanna and Diane.
Yeah, Carol, that's a great question. Actually, it was an individual, someone who had worked on actually getting the referendum passed for us to move to districts within the village, and was really working to raise awareness and educate. Because I don't know if you know, in Rantoul, we no longer have a newspaper. So everything has gone back to kind of word of mouth. And so there was no public education coming out of the village of Rantoul about the actual process. And so the people who had worked to get that on the ballot and got it passed was really working within the community to reach out to people. And this was a person who didn't know me and I didn't know her. Someone told her about me, that I lived over in my district. She reached out to me, gave me a wonderful speech. It got me excited, made me feel like I could change the world. And so, so to answer your question, it was an actual individual who reached out to me.
Wonderful. Thank you. Vanna?
Mine was an individual as well. I was just asking some questions about our neighborhood, and then they said, this seat is open, you should really run. And it was as simple as that, and then that sort of snowballed. So that's all it takes, I suppose.
Yeah. Thank you. And Diane?
For council, it was an individual. It was the person who held the seat and that I worked very closely with, and she strongly encouraged me to run. And then for mayor, it was, it was a combination of individuals, but people coming up and saying, you should run for mayor, which I didn't really listen at first, but that seed got planted, and I was upset enough about what I saw that I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. So I did it.
Good. Thank you.
Sometimes you have to do what Eleanor Roosevelt said. You must do the thing you think you cannot do.
Sometimes good to keep in mind. Thank you. Anne, other questions?
Yes. What skills would you suggest are essential to serving as an elected official? And what new skills have you acquired while in office?
And we'll start with Vanna, and then Diane and Regina.
So I think good skills are communication, being able to reach out to your constituents and the community at large. And that's whether it's picking up the phone, whether it's responding to emails. It's also being able to communicate and engage with your city staff. City of Champaign also has amazing city staff, but being able to understand what they do, so knowledge of their functioning and where your lane is as a council member, and when you should really hand things over to them, that's a skill, and maybe a new skill, but also involved with communication. I think a new skill that was acquired while in office is, I guess, developing a thick skin, because you do not make everybody happy when you are, and I don't even know if that's a skill, but the ability to have grace in all situations, right? No matter, you are doing the best that you can, and understanding that of yourself, right? And not beating yourself up after every vote if something doesn't go as planned, or if people are coming at you and you are feeling like, oh my gosh, like this has derailed, right? But it unintentionally. And just knowing that you can do better, right? And you will try to do better. And being able to then circle back, if you have that good communication skills, of how you take accountability for that. And also sometimes people just come and they're angry, and they will provoke you, maybe sometimes for no reason. And so you have to not take it personally. So I think for me, that was a skill that, I would hope everybody has, but you really hone it when you're in a public office, that you don't take things personally, whether during a meeting or if you see things in comments. You have a lot of keyboard warriors that say things in writing that they may not say to your face, but you have to know that that's easy to do. So.
Great. Thank you, Vanna. Diane?
Don't read the comments on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Which is hard to do because you read them anyway. But no, it's important to be able to listen. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should be listening more than talking, and then also know when to respond. And I took great joy. We didn't get many phone calls into the mayor's office, and sometimes there'd be some, but there would be some, and there'd be some doozy voicemails that my assistant would share. And I always made a point of calling those folks back. And number one, they were stunned to get a call back, because they really were venting on the phone, and no one expects to get a call back. But I made a point of doing that. And once they got over the shock that I was on the other end of the line, I said, well, I understand you're upset. Here's what I heard you talk, here's what I heard you say, and tell me about it. And we usually 99% of the time talk through things, and I would be able to explain why a certain thing was done or why a certain decision was made. And they had an opportunity to listen and get the full story. And most of the time, we parted ways on a respectful basis. They weren't necessarily happy all the time, but at least they understood, and people really appreciated getting a response back. And I think that's one of the most important things an elected official can do, is if you have the time and can do that, is to show that somebody's on the other end listening, and that goes a long way. As a council member, as mayor, the amount of reading is astonishing. And if you want to learn something, you've got to read the materials, you've got to ask questions, you have city staff you inquire about, but you just have to get used to the idea that if you're really going to make fully informed decisions, there's learning. Each topic is different, and that's what I loved about the job, is you learn something. You learn new things every day, and that goes with staying curious as well. Not taking things personally is really important. It's also very, very hard. And I go back to COVID. That was sort of the traumatic period of things. People, it brought out the best in people, but it also brought out the worst in people, especially online. And people were free to say whatever they wanted behind a black box on a screen. And it was very hard on staff. It was hard on council members, and it was very hard on our board and commission members when attacks were directed directly toward them. It was a pretty awful time, and that's part of the job. But it's not easy. That part's not easy.
Thank you, Diane.
Yeah.
Regina?
So I don't have anything really new to add to the list of the skills that you would suggest having that are essential. But what I would say, the skill that I acquired, because by nature I'm non-confrontational. person, but I think the skill that I have acquired is be willing to say the hard thing, right? Sometimes you just have to say what needs to be said when people are tippy, as my father would say, tippy toeing around it, just cut to the chase, right? And say what needs to be said. And be ready to stand 10 toes down on what you believe, right? I think that that's really critical. And that was something that I had to learn how to do in a very public way, but still hold it together and not lose my stuff in the process. And so I think another thing that you do, I think a skill that you do have to have is a level of emotional intelligence when you come to this, and how to work with people and know how to communicate and talk to people. I have seen where there are people who are in office, and because things don't go their way, they'll shut down, they pout, I just think that people expect more and want more from their leadership than that type of behavior. And so I think you do have to have a level of emotional intelligence and knowing how to communicate and work with people. And similar to what the mayor said, I do think definitely being curious and leaning in, seeking to understand another person's perspective when it definitely bumps up against everything that what you think and what you believe. You might actually learn something from that other person if you were just to lean into it. So those were some of my learning and growing edges and things the skills that I have had to acquire since being in this position.
Thank you. Thank you, all three. I'm going to insert a question here, and then if we have time afterwards, we might have another one from the group chat. And but why is it important for people to run for public office, local office in particular? And we'll start with Diane, Regina, and Vanna. Why is it important for people to run for public office?
Well, local government is the most important form of government, in my opinion. And it's the form of government that still functions very well and impacts people's lives directly. So it's important to have people participate. And it's also important to have contested elections, because if you have an uncontested election, you have no discussion of issues, you have very little interest, you have low voter turnout, and you really don't get a full sense of the magnitude of the position. So there's nothing wrong with someone exercising their right to run for office. If they meet the legal criteria to run, you have a right to run for office, and people should not be belittled or attacked or harassed for exercising that right. And we sometimes forget that at all levels. But local government is what is the infrastructure and the framework for our lives every day of our lives. And that goes for school boards, it goes for council, it goes for all of our different elected positions.
Thank you. Regina? Why is it important for people to run for public office?
I think it's important, and I just have to say it very candidly, is that if you have a complaint about what's going on and you have time and you're able, then you should get involved in some capacity. And if it is being able to rise to the occasion of running for public office, then you should do so. I think it's important because it also influences, to Diane's point, of being able to have a variety of voices that can come to the table to help shape the community, to bring diverse perspectives, to bring diverse backgrounds and experiences. Recently, something that was said to me was, in my position, was that had we not had districts, I would not have ran, but had we not had districts, they would have never got an opportunity to know me or to know my perspective. And so I think it's so critical to have diversity and have various types of voices from different backgrounds and life experiences. And local government gives you an opportunity to experience that. A lot of times, these are people that you are in a community where you've gone to school with people, you've watched children be raised together, and you have an opportunity to influence what that future will look like for that generation coming behind you. So I think it's really important that there's diversity, and that there's voice.
Thank you. Vanna, why is it important for people to run for public office?
Yeah, I think I'll pick up after Regina and say, I think local government is the voice of the people. And so it's important to run because you are part of that voice, and be part of the solutions that you can make. And, Diane and Regina both, stated very eloquently that, this is our opportunity, right? All of us that are able to, we can run. And it's not hard to campaign. It just takes time. It takes some effort, but we can do this. And for us, it matters. Representation matters. It matters when there are issues that you care about. Be that voice. Be the voice of your neighbors. Be the voice of your neighborhood. Whether it's city council, whether it's park board, whether it's a village board, this is our time to make that difference and make a significant impact. So I don't think I have anything more to add than what Regina and Diane already said, except this is our opportunity to be the voice.
Thank you. And Anne, I think we have time for one more short question if we're going to, we have a few minutes left.
So why is it important for women to run for office? And does your gender bring something special to the role?
Okay. And we'll start with Regina, Vanna, and Diane. And this will be our last question.
I don't know. I'm not really sure. Of course, I think that I bring something special to the role because I'm a woman, but not just because I'm a woman, but because I'm a Black woman. I to a certain degree, but why is it important I think women bring to me a level of compassion, and I think I heard someone say grace. I think we bring something unique to this work that's a little bit different. I feel like for me, I can't speak for other people. I think I'm level-headed in most cases. So do I think that gender brings something special to the role? Of course. Why not? Let's go with that. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Thank you, Regina. Vanna?
When I was first elected to council in 2017, we had the majority of female council. So there were more females on the city council, Champaign City Council at the time, than there were males. So it mattered. We were very proud of that. But I also remember thinking that what matters was that the people that were elected and have continued to be elected were people of integrity, people that were respected by their community, people that had a passion for public service. So I do think, as a woman, I think I am proud that my kids can see what I'm doing, that I can balance a professional career, I can balance public service, I can be a good wife and a good mother, that all that really matters, that visibility to others, that I could be a good role model like that. I think that is very important, that I can be a strong decision maker, and that, to other young people, that's important to them. But I think, gender is a tough thing to discuss these days. But for me, yeah, I love when a young person, and if they're female, they come up to me. I'm like, do it. Come on, let's have this conversation, and let's talk about getting you into politics. Just today, I actually was at the Capitol for to do some advocacy, and there was a young woman, a student, that was showing me around, and I was like, hey, let's talk some more, because if you really want to get into politics, I have people that can help you. I can help you. So I think that's important. Like, if they show an interest, I think it's important that we encourage young women to do more and believe more, and that they can be more.
Thank you, Vanna. Diane?
Well, I'm old enough to have grown up in the 50s and 60s in a small town in LaSalle County. There were no women school board members, no women city council members, no women state rep, there were no women elected officials anywhere in my world as I was growing up, until I moved here to Urbana, Champaign, and saw that, hey, there's that's not the way the world is supposed to work. So we're half the population, more or less. And so there should be representation of everyone at the very top. I don't know why we haven't had a woman president yet. It's just frustrating to me to no end. But we're getting there. One of these days we'll get there. But yes, we need all the voices and all the experiences. Women have different experiences than men all the way through life in many different ways, physically, emotionally, child rearing, everything. And those perspectives have to be represented as well and have to inform our decisions. And that's what I think what the value is.
Thank you. And I think with that, we'll bring it to a close. I want to thank all three of our panelists, Regina, Vanna, and Diane, for their time and good advice this evening. Thank those who have attended the program, and I hope those in attendance have been inspired to consider running for public office in the future, or to nudge someone you think needs a little nudging to consider running for public office. Once again, thanks to the League of Women Voters for recording this, and this recording will be on the League's website by early next week. And feel free to share it around, because not everyone could attend, but I'm sure they'll benefit from your wisdom. Thanks again for coming this evening, and look forward to seeing you again down the road. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.